encourages people from here. It's come to a point now where enough is enough.
We hatched this plan, a running exploratory road trip.
Wow, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा.
Because water was coming in the house, gunfire was erupting.
No, never thought that it would come to this.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the 2021 March on Washington Film Festival. My name is Opal Hope Bennett, programming consultant at the festival, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's panel with the student filmmakers from the Student Emerging Competition shorts. We have a wonderful panel of filmmakers to present to you. And before we get started, we have a word from our board member, Craig Emanuel.
Thank you, Opal. My name is Craig Emanuel, and I'm the chair of the Global Entertainment and Media Practice for the law firm of Paul Hastings, as well as being on the board of directors of the March on Washington Film Festival. For more than 35 years, I have worked as an entertainment lawyer, in large part representing writers, directors, actors, and producers in film and television. I've worked closely with filmmakers from all over the world in witnessing independent films start with the genesis of a great idea to the creation of a finished film to be seen on the silver screen or on my flat screen TV. I am thrilled and honored to be introducing this year's Filmmaker Finalist Roundtable. Film is not just a form of escapism, but has become a medium from which we, the audience, become educated in issues that might never be on our radar. The mission of the March on Washington Film Festival is exemplified by this competition, by their continued support of emerging and student filmmakers, and bringing to us films dealing with important issues concerning social justice. The dream of every filmmaker is to have their films seen and discussed, and we appreciate you, the audience, for helping today's finalist in fulfilling that dream. Thank you, and back to you, Opal.
Thank you, Craig. This is our 6th year of running the competitions. We do one for student, which you'll be meeting just in a moment, and we do one for emerging filmmakers. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to feature the work of up-and-coming filmmaker artists, activists, and those who want to make an impact with their storytelling. And without further ado, let me introduce you to this year's finalists in the student competition. We have C. Craig, the director of Midnight in the Valley.
Oh.
Are you there, C? There
I'm
you
here.
are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good to see you.
Very good seeing you.
Next, we have Debbie Africa and Mike Africa Sr., the directors of By Your Side.
Hi.
Hi, Debbie and Mike. Good to see you both.
Good
morning.
Then we have Yukong Chen, director of Unfinished Lives.
Hi.
Hello, Yukong. Welcome. And we have Sarah D. Collins, director of It Takes a Circus.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah. I know Zoe was supposed to be joining us. Is she with us?
I tried reaching out. Oh, there's Zoe.
Did Zoe make it? Hi.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Zoe Chisersri Ramushri, co-director of It Takes a Circus. So wonderful to have all of you here. And congratulations on your selection to being a finalist in the competition. The award will be presented later today in DC, and we'll be blasting it out over our social media once it's been announced. So really, really wonderful to have you all here. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
So I just want to get started. All of you have been creating the work that we saw in the competition from a student posture. This was either part of work that you needed to complete your degree or your studies, or it was something you did in the process of learning. And I'm curious for all of you to answer the question. Talk about what it was like to be wanting to create something with a lot of impact, even while you were in the posture of as being a learning artist. Let's start with you, C. Craig.
Oh, for me, it was a work of like all of our entire team just trying to have something to say specifically about what it means to be involved in our particular communities, right? And because of our subject matter being about immigration and what that was like when it was really, really at the forefront. Now it's back at the forefront. So it was a thing that we cared about and we poured our hearts into. So we're grateful that you all found some merit in it.
Absolutely. Let's go on to Debbie and Mike.
Yeah, Debbie and I were speaking at a church near this community after being recently released from prison for 40 years. And speaking at the church, we met a friend named Jennifer Bennett, and she introduced us to Louis Messiah and his studio, and they invited us down to learn filmmaking in order to tell our story. And we went down. It was a great experience, and as part of that class, we made a film. And what you see here, what's going to be shown here, is that film, By Your Side. So it's an actual film of our lives.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. For anyone joining us who hasn't seen the film yet, yeah, Mike and Debbie made a deeply personal and powerful film about their life experience. Yukon.
Hi. So like for me, I was like trying to do research for my thesis film, and I was in this program, so I figured that I need to do something for international student, and that's why I made this film. And the whole process felt so relatable for me because uh, in this case, Shiran was an international student from China, and I'm in the same situation with him too. So for me, it's so relatable and so painful to do this when I was a student and in that learning process. So that's something special for me, I think.
Absolutely, your film was deeply, deeply moving, and all of the jurors were giving us some great feedback on that one. Finally, Sarah and Zoe.
Um, yeah, well, I guess I'll go first. I think one of the major things that I would point out about making this film, as students as well as filmmakers, was a couple of tough decisions. Obviously the pandemic interrupted our shooting. We had the protests that happened in the middle of it, and we had to make a decision at that point whether we would just complete the film as it was, outside, in order to meet our timelines for graduation. But Sarah and I both decided, we would put everything aside and defer so we could work a little bit longer on the film. I remember those were tough conversations where, we didn't know what this would mean. We didn't know how long the pandemic would go on for. But we both knew very strongly that we wanted to give this film a lot more time. So we both deferred the semester, dropped a lot of opportunities, but ultimately I think it was worth it, because we got to spend a lot more time with our characters. We got to see them grow through the pandemic and through the protests, which just enriched the film so much for, I mean, just as a process for us as filmmakers, but as well for the film.
I guess to add, because you said about making an impact, Opal, like for us, there was no question. Like that was what we wanted to do. That's how we became friends. We started talking about race relations, and that was something that we were both passionate about. And just noticing the dynamic of the circus kids even before, the everything that happened last year. It's important in general, regardless of if there's chaos or not, to elevate, children of color and share their stories.
Absolutely. And so it's a great segue. I wanted to have you guys speak to student filmmaking with impact first, but I'd love for you also to talk about, because there might be folks joining us who haven't seen your films as yet. Just give us a brief thumbnail of your film, what it's about, and what you're hoping audiences will take away from their viewing of it. Mike and Debbie, please. And I loved having the two of you in the group as students, because usually, it's folks starting out, and it's just been so wonderful to see what you both were able to do so quickly, from not having made a film before. So yeah, please share about the film and your story, and yeah, why you really wanted to make sure that you were able to tell your story.
Well, thank you, Opal. And it was a bit of a challenge on a lot of fronts because we wanted to tell our story within the organization of Move, but not want to have Move as the forefront. Although it was a lot of Move in our story because that was a lot of our lives. But we also wanted to focus on our story and what actually we went through as a couple trying to be together, but interrupted by two opposing forces that was moved in the city of Philadelphia. And our story, we feel, is impactful because we not only went through a lot, but in the end of all that, if you want to call it the end, we came out of it. We have a lot of battle scars mentally, emotionally, but we feel like we did. We feel like we did prevail, but we just have to now work through these things. And our film is just so that people can see not only the impact that happened within our lives, but also so that we can help people be able to use these experiences that we experience to try to not make some of the same mistakes that we made, and we want to actually protect what we feel now we need to protect ourselves, our children, while also moving forward in the struggle for freedom for all of life.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Mike, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just that we were given a wonderful platform by um, Louis Messiah and Scribe Video Center in Philadelphia, in which to tell this story. And it's meaningful, as Deb said, for you know uh, we were lambasted in the press for so many years, and finally getting to tell your own story and your own side of things um, was a wonderful opportunity. And filmmaking is forever, implanted in our minds as a way to, get your message out there and to tell your story and tell your truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely that. And you did it very powerfully here. I'm going to move on to Yukon. Tell us a bit about Unfinished Lives.
Unfinished Life is my thesis film. It's a documentary, and this documentary is dedicated to Xiran, a Chinese student who was beaten to death near the USC campus 7 years ago. So 4 years ago, when I got the offer from USC, the School of Cinematic Arts, my parents were so worried instead of, feeling happy for me, because they heard about Shiran's case and they never wanted the same thing to happen to me. But then I came to USC and lived in the same neighborhood as Shiran. And as a foreigner, I could still sense that insecure feeling when walking along from my apartment to the campus. So at that moment, I started to think of why this insecurity still exists. Even after this heartbreaking tragedy. So that's the reason that we made this film, to find the answer. And we follow the lawyer Rose and her journey of fighting justice for Xiran. Yeah.
Yeah, that the story and her fight are so poignant. And it's really, I think it was really powerful to be told by a student about a student. So thank you for that. Zoe and Sarah, please tell us about It Takes a Circus.
Who wants to go? I guess I'll go. So It Takes a Circus, there's this concept that's actually global called social circus, which basically teaches typically at-risk youth circus skills to build their confidence and communication skills. So our film follows an particular social circus program in Trenton, New Jersey. And it's sort of interesting because the kids from Trenton go every single day. It's like their second home. And then a couple times a week, kids from Princeton come. And I don't know, for those of you not familiar with the two cities or towns, they're almost opposite demographically. So we just thought that was interesting. And then obviously this little thing called COVID happened. So we can take over from there.
Yeah, so basically our film follows the lives of two girls who we met there. Bree, who walked up right up to the camera from the beginning and was like, she, when you see her on screen, you understand she's just like amazing. Yeah. And then Aaliyah, who happened to be her cousin, who's a lot, a little bit more shy, a little bit more slow to open up. But both the girls had like really incredible stories, and just an incredible amount of maturity and resilience with what they had gone through and what they'd experienced, and their willingness to share, and also just their outlook on life. So we just basically started, we started hanging out with a lot of the kids, filming and recording. And as Sarah mentioned, then COVID happened. But I think what the film turned out to be is just watching them grow through the BLM protests after the murder of George Floyd, just seeing how their minds shifted, how they basically came to terms with it, and used the circus as kind of a medium to communicate their empowerment, to communicate their feelings, to basically channel and speak and find I would say, sort of it starts out, the film is really like light, and it's just how the girls work, very like, joking about everything. And you can see just the transformation on camera, in how they come into their power, and find their voice, and actually find something that where they can take a leadership role, particularly Bree. I loved seeing that, seeing how she took leadership and ownership of the space. And yeah, so I mean, that's not a summary of the film. That's me talking about the process. But yeah, that's kind of what the film kind of it follows the lives of the two girls, just over that transition period.
Yeah, I like how you talk about it going from light to feeling much more substantive. That was certainly the arc that really grabbed me on the first screening, and you both do a really talented job of conveying what was going on with these youngsters. So thank you so much for the work. See, Craig.
Yeah.
Tell us about Midnight in the Valley, which you pack a lot into 6 minutes.
Yeah. And that was on purpose, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing like the stand on the soapbox approach to such a important subject that could easily be turned off by other folks. But when we came up with it, we wanted to follow a young woman who went into a convenience store with a singular purpose. She wanted to steal a candy bar, right? And that's, she wasn't thinking about anybody else. It was a thing that she wanted, and then she finds herself in a situation where she has the ability to help someone else, and against everything that she wants to do, she decides to help one person, and it winds up helping many people, right? And that was kind of the outlook of how I would like people to view life, is that a singular action could ripple out and help much more than one person.
In 6 minutes. Brilliant. Very, very well done. So I would love to know from each of you, I don't know if you've gotten to partake of any of the festival's programming, but you all decided to submit to the festival because you believe your work spoke in some way to civil rights and to social justice issues. And I'd love to hear from each of you why that is important to be spoken to right now in this time with your art. I'll start with you, C. Craig.
For me, just like I was just talking about, it doesn't matter what your situation in life is. You have the opportunity to make a choice every single day, whether or not you're going to get involved in causes that affect you and causes that don't directly affect you, right? And I would argue that it's the ones that don't directly affect you that have the biggest impact on your inner life, and to try to strive to be as altruistic as possible, and that takes effort, right? Because it's not a thing that you have to think about every single day. So I'm grateful when people do it for our community, and I'm grateful when we're able to do it for other communities.
Absolutely, that intersectionality.
Yeah.
So potent. Debbie and Mike.
Yeah. Well, we were political activists, from a young age, and we had all these ideals that we wanted to follow, and we were, and and being a political activist, being Black folks in Philadelphia, under the direction of Mayor Frank Rizzo and a regime such as that, we came to some, many battles and many confrontations, and the young ideals we had quickly turned into some deadly serious ones. So we had major confrontations, which resulted in 100-year prison sentences for all of us. So as I mentioned earlier, the press really laid into us, and that lasted for a long time. And then we didn't have a voice really in which to express the things that were really going on. And the only person, black or white, that would seem to tell our side was Mumia Abu-Jamal at that time. Well, since being out, we got a chance with great help from our son, who was born while we were in prison, Mike Jr., and who eventually played a huge role in freeing us. We had him in a prison, but he came back to free us. So I forgot where I started with this. But
well, basically, just to go to how we wanted to get across to people too that despite everything that has happened, despite everything that has happened in history, we are still getting lessons. We're still getting lessons with all kinds of injustice, Black, white, Spanish, Puerto Rican, all from all walks of life, including animals and people don't see as quite as important. But we have wanted to bring across to people that no matter what, injustice is real and it should not be. And our film is just one small portion of, I don't even know whether to say today's, it was 40 years ago, but of yesterday's and today's knitting together, that justice is still here. And now you see all the George Floyd and everybody else who are in the news about being discriminated against. It's just violated, and it's still going on.
And it's a very fluid situation with us, and very contentious with the nation, So we're still here. We're still, trying to extend our experience to folks and hopefully help folks, and make some wiser choices too when you're in the midst of these situations, So.
Right. Because we sure want people to protect our children too, like that. That is a huge thing for us.
Yeah, it was so powerful to be able to not just see your story, but hear your voice in your story, hear your voices, hear from you directly. And you being amongst this cohort of filmmakers really feels just in sync with right now, because we need the generations to be speaking through art, directly on every front. And so I think, all of you guys should count yourselves really, really blessed to be able to connect artistically even with Mike and Debbie right now, because they've been doing this work in their lives. And they're starting to do this work in the art, and it's really powerful. Let's move to you, Yukon. Why is it important to be doing work and making work that's speaking to civil rights and social justice in this moment?
Yeah, so in the very first place, which I think it was 2 years ago when we started this film, we were just trying to do a documentary about the international student experience, not specifically on this case. And then I found out about Sheena's case, and I was shocked by the long legal procedure involved. It's like more than 5 years when I got involved. So it was a surprise for me, because really it won't take that long in my country to fight for someone's justice for a case that is like this. So I decided to focus on this specific case to talk about the international student experience. And after that, I figured that there were a lot of misunderstandings about the case. So we wanted to bring the untold story and the understated dedication it carried with it to the forefront. So one thing I always believe is that tragedy will be repeated until people really learn from it. So I feel like to find some platforms to show the film and to be selected shows some recognition about like people really care about the case, people really care about those person, that people really care about this story. So this is something that I really want to convey with this film.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that. That's definitely something that sometimes gets lost in media coverage of stories like this and tragedies like this. We've got 5 minutes left, so please, Sarah and Zoe, share with us why it's important to be doing work that's speaking to civil rights, social justice in this moment.
I guess I'll go first on that. If I'm honest, so I'm based in South Africa, and I worked in activism from uni days, and then I'd also worked in the space for gender-based violence. I still in the film industry. I set up an organization, and that's kind of what I'd been doing for 3 or 4 years. And when I got my acceptance to Columbia, and I thought, oh wow, it's a good time for me to kind of take a break and focus on the arts and do something a little bit lighter, to kind of move away, because I was feeling a heavy weight. South Africa still has a lot of apartheid triggers and a lot of racial tension, and added with the gender-based violence, it was like, oh, I'd love to do something light. And that's something Sarah and I talked about. Like, we had discussions a lot, but we're like, we want to do something empowering. And to be honest, I thought I could take a break coming to America just for a little bit, yeah, don't know much about that. Well, but yeah. But yeah, so when we started out, like, as you mentioned, the film is really, it was like a lovely story, just about these kids and their interactions and that. But I think it's one of those things that I've learned, like, you just can't get away from it. As long as the world has injustice, there's certain people that you'll end up gravitating towards it. It will find you, and you are the conduit or the medium that is supposed to speak about it. There is no breaks until these things are leveled out. And it is heavy, it is hectic, it is triggering a lot of the time, but it is so important for you to use your voice, whatever space and platform you get, to be able to amplify the voices of those who can't speak for themselves. So I think for me, that's personally why it's incredibly important, and I'll continue to do it for as long as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't have much to add except to say that why right now, I mean, why for hundreds of years, right? But I think, I do think, like, I guess as a white person, it feels like some of my fellow white people are finally waking up for some reason in the past year. So, I think for right now, if we can just cram as much information as we can and see what sticks, I think that's important for why right now.
I appreciate hearing from all of you on that. It's really good to know that artists and filmmakers like you are in the world with that consciousness. Keep it up. We need you out there amplifying and shining light. Thank you so much for sharing your work with us. And thank you all who are watching for joining us this morning. Please stream in a bit later for our panel with the emerging filmmakers who made narrative and documentary films on the topics of the festival. We thank you so much. Please continue to join us for the rest of the festival. We go through Sunday and march on.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Student Filmmaker Competition's Finalists Roundtable this morning. I'm Broderick Johnson, the producer of the March on Washington Film Festival, and we're thrilled you decided to join us on Saturday morning and learn from our student filmmakers. Thank you so much, Opal Hope Bennett, for leading us year after year, giving us access to filmmakers all around the world, and to help shed light on their incredible work. To the filmmakers who joined us today, thank you for all of your hard work, and please keep in touch and let us know how we can continue to support you. We hope you've enjoyed our festival, whether in person or virtual. We've had an extraordinary few days with much more programming to come. Later this morning, we are showcasing our emerging filmmakers, where Opal Hope Bennett will return and lead us in another conversation on the narrative and documentary films we are featuring this year. All of our films and panel discussions will be available until October 11th on Eventive, so please tune in. Also, make sure to reserve your tickets today at marchonwashingtonfilmfestival.org. Until then, stay safe and march on.